And we're on.
Let's go.
Let's go. I'm going to read you a quote. I'm not mad that Shein bought Everlane. I'm mad that we were ever sold the lie that Everlane was a viable business. Anonymous Instagram user.
Oh, there's a lot of Instagram users that are with that sentiment right now, including,
Very upset.
Yeah,
Very upset.
Very upset. It's kind of a bomb went off, and before we get into talking about all things Everlane, maybe we should center the beginning of our conversation on how the Alfred Chang, the Everlane CEO, how he feels right now. Maybe we should talk about that really quick first. There's a great quote. Maybe you can tell me.
So on Friday, May 22nd, Alfred, who is the current CEO at Everlane, said the following in a statement. This past week has been a hard one. Seeing our company in the media and in the light was painful. Needing to stay silent per standard process in these matters has been even harder. I want to be clear. Everlane remains Everlane. I'll continue as CEO. Our leadership team will stay in place, and we'll continue operating independently with our design standards, brand philosophy, and values intact. Alfred.
Wow. Alfie, he is under pressure. He's very upset, and I don't really buy it, but that's what happened this week in sustainability. Everlane sold their soul to the devil.
To the devil, exactly.
To the actual devil. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Everlane, and what a huge bummer it is for the world of sustainability. That is a technical term. And that's what we're doing.
But I'm pretty sure that's how most people felt. It feels like a bit of the stages of grieving for
100%
a dear friend or a relationship that people were in with this brand that really represented something for a lot of people in the world.
Oh yeah, I own Everlane.
Yeah,
I was a believer. Like you and I know too much about these things to right?
we know too much. We're already jaded about everything.
Right. So, as we get into our conversation, maybe I can play a clip for you. And it, just a little 2-minute, CBC support the CBC in Canada, clip, kind of summarizing what happened, this week with Shein. And I will share that right now. Let's go.
Servicing a global network of Shein customers.
It's an unlikely fit. Chinese fast fashion giant Shein is buying American retailer Everlane, known for clothing that's ethical and eco-friendly. The online backlash has been swift.
I'm gobsmacked by this because these two things are so completely opposite.
Shein, of all brands, $100 million to completely throw away your entire supposed ethos.
The deal appears to be a lifeline for Everlane, which has struggled with falling sales and rising debt.
They failed, I think, ultimately because of traditional business missteps. They opened up expensive stores with long leases. Their merchandising turned out to be stale and slow.
Taking over Everlane gives Shein a physical foothold in the U.S., access to a higher-end market, and perhaps a chance to improve its reputation. In a statement to CBC News, Everlane CEO said the company will remain an independent brand, staying true to long-standing brand values, sustainability commitments, and exceptional quality. Some customers are skeptical.
this really reconfirms to me that Everlane never really cared about being sustainable or ethical. It was just a marketing ploy.
Natural materials.
The Everlane news comes just weeks after eco-friendly sneaker brand Allbirds announced it was abandoning its mission.
That's another
raising
episode.
Questions about the future of sustainable fashion.
I do think that this is a wake-up call that values and good intentions alone aren't enough. So when, the market rewards that lowest price, fast delivery, responsible brands are competing at a structural disadvantage.
In a tough economy, most consumers are looking for the best bang for their buck. That brings Shein a lot of business. It was forecasted to earn nearly $2 billion in profit last year. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
$2 billion in profit last year. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that quote doesn't sound any better from that journalist than it did from him, from Alfie.
No.
It still sounds like bullshit.
It sounds like bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the summary from CBC. There's been a million hot takes on this. And why not, when it's time for us to share our hot take. And
it is time for us to share our hot take and really, why we decided to cover this. We certainly had a different plan for our very first episode of Doing Good Badly, right? This is our first episode that you're listening to. And our original first episode is going to be the second episode now. But this was just, so timely and so big in the world of business, and especially in the world of sustainable business. But I think also just what it represents in terms of the challenges and people's perspectives and people's relationships with these type of brands and what inevitably happens over and over again, that we wanted to dive into this. This is what Doing Good Badly is really all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so interesting that as we're in our early conversations, and not even with a podcast in mind, just therapy, just kind of therapy, having conversations about where's this momentum and where's the momentum in the sustainability world, and how are we supporting, where's the opportunity for consumers to activate in a really meaningful way. And that, that conversation about consumer activation is another conversation. But yeah, I feel like there's a few things that we've been tossing around, in terms of why we're doing this. And one of those, kind of messages that keeps coming back to us is that two sustainability consultants, we are too tired for hype and too stubbornly optimistic to quit. And I do feel like,
and we have too much to say, and we're tired of saying it to ourselves or to each other when we catch up all the time. So
ranting to each other about what is happening, is not useful. It's useful for us, but it's just in a vacuum.
It's like a therapy session every time.
Yeah. And I think, it's a therapy session. And I feel like, and in the quiet conversations I keep having with clients, with friends, with kind of peers in the sustainability world, customers, folks that are just interested in living a more sustainable life, there is this shookness in people that is this feels weird now. It feels like, and you'll hear as we go through our conversation today with some of these clips, there's a few, it feels like it's over, but it's not over. And so, I think that's a big thing, is to really call it out and recognize it. Toxic positivity in this space is we can do it. Yes, we can, but it takes work and intention and intentional kind of design and how we create agency for ourselves and others.
Absolutely. And I think part of the conversation is too, it's recognizing that, do we just try to create sustainable, emission-driven companies and organizations within a system that doesn't work in our favor in the long run anyway? Or do we work towards affecting that bigger system that's always at play? Or do we have to do two things all at once in order for us to have long-term impact in the world. And I think that's what a lot of folks probably are facing now, recognizing and sort of seeing some of these companies. And it's like company after company not being able to continue building their impact, right? They get thrown these curveballs. And so inevitably, what happens to that company, what happens to the people that really believed in it and did the work. But as you said, it's not the end, but we have to be very, I think, diligent about opening our eyes and seeing like what's actually happening in order for us to move forward and actually affect change.
Yeah.
And for consumers to also understand like how they can contribute to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we joke around that, doing good is complicated, and doing bad is apparently very easy. And
very easy.
it is, because the system is designed, and not necessarily, am I allowed to just be extreme? Maybe it is designed for harm. Like capitalism in the system we live in.
It's extractive, right? So
it's extractive. Yeah. And so, doing bad is apparently very easy because the system is designed to either allow it or reward it. And so companies that are trying to do good, they are rolling boulders up hills, and we have a lot of feelings about it.
And then
how it can be done better.
And bad actors are those that are not performing well, are quite often not held accountable to the same standard that those sustainability companies are held accountable, right? So it's really actually interesting what happens there. And
100%. It's like we are so used to companies and corporate leaders doing wrong, or the race to the bottom, or it's expected. And we're going to talk about it in this episode. We're going to get a little bit later we're going to talk about Patagonia a little bit later, but they're an example of a company that, like, even when they're kind of the best of the bunch in so many ways, and still folks are like trying to tear it down, and they want perfection. So bad actors are allowed to be bad actors, and it's, well, that's just business as usual. That's just business. And good actors are held to this completely different standard of performance, and you cannot make mistakes. Now, Everlane, we're going to get into them and how maybe, the intention was great from the beginning, but maybe
it was peppered with mistakes,
a lot of hiccups,
probably.
A lot of hiccups along the way. Yeah. And so our conversation today, it's not just about Shein and Everlane and fast fashion and kind of what's going on in that world, and this kind of earthquake in this space of sustainable consumerism. It's also like, it's not just a fashion story. It's a story about what happens when values live inside a brand and not in a legal structure. And I know, Joe, you are super keen to have this conversation about like the structural, how do we what companies can do to lock these values into their legal structures. And
exactly.
So it's both story and brand but also
it has to come back down to that, right?
Yeah.
Because like the structures and the intentions and structures that get really rewarded in this system are the ones that are extractive, that are focused on growth at all costs, and that are very monetary in nature, right? Then those are the structures that continue to be prolific, right? And that end up actually being the structures that actually hurt these mission-focused companies. And so we want to dive into like, what does that look like? Are there paths forward that do exist and that people have tried? Because I think this is a really worthy conversation to have, because there's always multiple ways of doing something in a system that essentially like we created, right? Yeah. Human beings created the system that we live within. And so I think we are sort of think that I think majority of people just think we have to exist in this system. that is there because it's there, but there are alternatives. There are hybrids that are getting created, that are working.
Yeah. And I guess I think, one of the important pieces in sustainable business, and like we are consultants, but we are not interested in just talking to consultants or business owners. Like, I think it's always come down to how do we create agency for consumers to make good choices and to have trustworthy, accessible options to live in the bubble of capitalism or the fog of capitalism and still be able to make choices that feel they are not completely, they're not, they're not throwing the future away in order to get a new pair of shoes or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I just want to, just in the spirit of thinking about, I know, and I feel like I'm a broken record in our planning meetings and our other conversations. I'm like, consumers. And I appreciate, Joe, that you were like, structure, economics, where's follow the money? Like, what is happening? But I do just want to share a little.
But and I appreciate that. And the reality is, like, those economics don't work without customers. So the customers the people are essential in this equation, right? So
yeah,
when we forget about them, like, that's when we get into a lot of issues.
Absolutely. And I think in a world where people used to be citizens and now they're consumers, and it's hard to be a responsible person and live in a way that you can feel is aligned with who you are and what you want to leave and what you want to do. And so I am always thinking about like the psychological and spiritual experience that citizens are having in a broken world, and like, can we offer them hope spots and can we offer them opportunities to live better lives? And I just want to share a really quick clip here from Bima Williams, and Collab Cousins. Here we go. Instagram. We will share all of our links on our social. And let's just hear what he has to say.
Millennial brands are cool. Everlane just signed a deal with the devil. Allbirds is now an AI company. Hell, what's next? Zara's going to become more valuable than Nike? Well, actually, welcome to the Collab Lab. Let's break down the belief bill. When your values cost more than your margins can actually cover. Everlane, Allbirds, Away, they all promise millennials a cleaner version of capitalism. Better materials, better factories, fair prices, no middleman, less bullshit. Hell, D2C was making more promises than a wellness bro injecting peptides. And that worked right up until the bill came due. Because doing the right thing, it costs money. And the problem with a lot of these brands is that their values were real, but their margins were radically transparent. You see, the middleman never really ghosted. Instead of department stores, it was meta ads. Instead of retail rent, it was free shipping and free returns. Instead of foot traffic, it was rented attention. But once the cheap ads and the cheap capital disappeared, the math couldn't really carry the mission anymore. So I hate to say it, but I think consumers love values right up until values show up in the money. Now, at some point, somebody got to pay for all this fantasy, and it ain't ludicrous. Look, Collab Cousins, do we want values or do we want value? Millennial brands are cooked. Everlane.
Okay, so I don't agree with everything Bima brought there, but I do feel that math and mission go hand in hand in a capitalist system. And I know we're going to talk about growth and your world from funds and startups, and so many brands start with the intentions and the dream and the aspiration, and
and then I think a lot of them get wrapped up in also in that, like, sexy world of the startup world, right? Of raising capital, of growing really fast, and that is really enticing for a lot of folks, because that's what in the media is equated with success. But success and long-term like outcomes really come not because of super highly scalable growth or really high raises. It comes through time, right? And meaningful engagement with your community and your customers. And I think that's what we're seeing. Some of these brands that had very intentional values that they were going into business with, and they had really, impact focused visions of what they were trying to create, but along the path, trying to compete in this like very high growth tech world, I think
100%.
took them off course. Took them off course in meeting their real, like the impact that they were trying to create.
Yeah.
And instead
And
they
like,
got
why
focused
would a
on
clothing, this is what kills me, is why would a clothing company want to function like a SaaS model startup? Like it seems like that hockey stick curve and the private equity and the capital raises, it feels like to me, it feels very out of step for something like an apparel company or,
yeah,
like,
or like,
it doesn't make sense to me.
I see people and founders get swept away in it because it's exciting, and people, there's a lot of yes people, even though we know that there's a lot of no people in that world. But there's a lot of yes people because they want to see you grow, and they want to have outcomes too from a financial perspective, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna episode 2, which was episode 1, gets into a little bit more of the kind of like theory of like what might be happening in the world surrounding capitalism and the impact business or like sustainable business movement. So let's get into who Everlane was. Could I take you on a little journey through who Everlane, how they founded? So they're founded in San Francisco in 2010. As I established in episode 2, I don't pronounce names properly ever, and that's okay. So they were founded in San Francisco in 2010 by Michael Praisman, and they actually trademarked radical transparency. They trademarked it, which I did not know that. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, why that's problematic. But their original mission, and we can share some original screenshots or like earlier screenshots from their website that I handy-dandily had in some previous decks, sharing Everlane as an example of doing it right with clients, which I feel like kind of shame now. But we believe we can all make a difference was their kind of reason for being, or their mission statement. And they had these 3 core pillars: exceptional quality, ethical factories, and radical transparency. And I feel in I love Simon Sinek, like the golden circle kind of method. The why, how, what. The what is nothing more than a t-shirt. The what is it's a t-shirt, it's a pair of pants, it's a thing you put on your body. And, they started with great intentions, although trademarking anything and making it your specific language to you and not accessible to other brands that might also want to copy you or follow your lead seems very strange. So they were growing, but there were cracks, and the cracks started pretty early. But I'll get into a few of the pieces from 2020. And so in 2020, a series of employees, first in 2020 during COVID, they fired loads and loads of their workers. And a lot of folks were laid off and furloughed during COVID. Everlane specifically fired almost all of their workers who were attempting to unionize. So this had started to become a movement inside the company. Folks wanted to create a union, and management did not like that, as managements never seem to like that. And I have a clip I'll play. It's a minute long. It's amazing. Shared by someone I love from TikTok called Activism. And let me just share her kind of breakdown. And this clip is from 2021. So this is not recent. This is not, she's not sharing this as a result of the hopping on the kind of the train of Shein. So here we go. Let's listen to Activism share her perspective.
Let's chat about Everlane. In the spirit of transparency, I was on their affiliate list and in their affiliate program for a number of years. I got a few free products from them, went to some events, and I really genuinely loved the stuff I got from Everlane. But last year, kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, there were some customer service employees that were trying to unionize to ask for better wages, better treatment, and Everlane was doing everything they could to try to get the workers to not unionize. And then Everlane fired like almost all the people that were part of Everlane Union. Everlane U is the union's Instagram account, and they just have a ton of information about what happened.
That was
and
a Bernie.
Soon after the union busting, this Everlane Ex-Wives Club came out with a ton of employee experiences about the toxic workplace culture. I really encourage you all to look at this, especially if you still buy from Everlane. It's horrifying. And the company is still handling it terribly to this day. Public scandals threaten to destroy their ethical image. So yeah, I don't shop there anymore. Let's chat about.
So we'll share that on our social. There was a tweet from Bernie Sanders, which is if Bernie is tweeting about you busting your union attempt, you're probably on the wrong side of history. And so as Activism shared, there were a series of kind of a confluence of events happening internally at Everlane during the pandemic, but leading up to the pandemic. Folks had, again, tried to unionize, and that effort was ended through mass layoffs and terminations. But there was also, as she mentioned, the Everlane Ex-Wives Club. And I think this is actually, they're kind of equally insidious, but the Everlane Ex-Wives Club was a series of Black employees, people of color, LGBTQIA+, and their allies that published a 7-page manifesto saying that the internal culture was the opposite of what the brand claimed publicly. And I'm going to share some details with you, Joe, and the two people listening to this podcast, and then just to kind of bring you into it. And so from the manifesto, one of the quotes that really, it struck me, and I feel like this quote is from 2021, but also in the media, in the social media reaction to Everlane's sale to Shein, I feel like this sentiment is like, this is the core sentiment we're kind of hearing, is that, Everlane broke us. Our spirit, our bodies, and our ideas were considered for their cachet and cultural value. So within Everlane, they had pay disparities between white male employees and queer women of color doing equivalent or higher level work. Creative director presented 32 Black female model cards to the CCO, the chief creative officer. 31 of them were rejected. The reasons given: their looks are a little too severe for Everlane, too edgy. One maybe for a half Black, half Danish model for e-commerce. Employees who called out the lack of diversity, they were being subdued with excuses, questioned on their loyalty, and fell victim to retaliation. So there was just a lot of toxicity internally at Everlane, and there within the C-suite, there was only one corporate level executive of color in the entire company. And this is a company that was doing, I think, around $1 billion in sales at that time, or close to 900 million. So here's another quote from the manifesto. What does radical transparency mean? We understand for Everlane, it means a transparent supply chain and cost structure, but capitalism and the means of production are inherently connected to systemic racism. We consider that Everlane has benefited from this not only across the supply chain, but within the corporate structure as well. So they renamed it the Everlane Ex-Wives Club. Convenient, not radical transparency, but convenient transparency. So this, and I will admit I did not know about this. And I will also own that I, at this time, was using Everlane as an example of good practices in their supply chain and a good marketing. So I will just own that. Any client in that space listening to this, gross. Sorry about that. So that's kind of the ex-wives, the Everlane ex-wives, and the union busting. So there was kind of some rot in the company already. But even then, they were getting these kind of terrible transparency scores from rating, agencies or nonprofits. So out of in Remake's transparency report in 2020, I think it was 2024, they had a 22 out of 100. And they were only 1 point higher than Forever 21. Oh, so this was like 2022, probably 2021. For a company that trademarked radical transparency, that number is really, that math does not math. So the original founder, Praisman, stepped away in 2021, and they had different folks in leadership, and then Alfred Chang entered in 2025 and moved toward this rebrand of clean luxury. By 2026, they had accumulated $90 million in debt. And they were in a bad situation financially. But I don't know. I feel like, Joe, more. You've done some deeper research on the numbers and what all that means from a kind of like the startup, who was at the table perspective.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting when you actually dig into the numbers behind what is actually happening at the same time from like their operational perspective and their team perspective. And, of course, and COVID is happening, right? These are like 2020. And at the same time, they're having all of these issues internally. But what we're seeing, like on a macroeconomic level too, during that time is there's this rise of D2C, e-commerce, right? Because of what's happening of COVID globally. And then soon after, as we get into 2022, 2023, these high valuations, this high growth for many companies that they experienced in those 2020 years, things start to look different once we get into 2022, 2023, right? Inputs into business become much more expensive. The markets are a lot harder to penetrate. Marketing becomes more expensive and harder to sort of break through all the noise that exists out there in the world.
Yeah, I think also probably, I don't know if you've seen this in your research, Joe, but there was this huge rush to buy after when we were coming out of COVID. I think when people started going back out in the world, there was kind of it was kind of a frenzied time for traveling and buying and Yeah.
And I think at the back on the exactly, and I think at this what was happening at the same time in the startup and then in the investor world is we were seeing really high valuations. We were seeing companies just like coming in and raising lots of capital. And a lot of companies that were like direct to consumer or e-commerce or retail type brands, not just the typical software or apps, et cetera, right? So this is where we see companies like the Everlanes, like Glossier, like Warby Parker, Outdoor Voices, and many, many others raising capital, trying to grow at the same pace that their like software counterparts were growing at and technology counterparts were growing at. But these companies were physical product companies, right? There were a lot of the times also like retail companies, and their cost inputs to produce that product and produce that experience for the consumer was very different from a financial perspective. And what we see is, you know, as these companies try to keep pace with what is happening with the remainder of the tech ecosystem, is they are spending more and more money. And what does that require? That isn't all being generated from just revenue from selling their products and services. That has to come from other, whether it's debt capital or whether it's investor dollars coming in. And so these companies are coming in and taking on all of this, either debt or equity or both. And essentially through that process, and what I think happened with Everlane is they did not only take a lot of debt on because they were just trying to survive at, you know, by 2024, 2025, they've got, I think, 10 physical retail locations in the United States, which actually is an important part of this conversation that a lot of people don't talk about.
And
what's
Shein
happened.
access to those retail spaces.
And it's like, of course, it's like that's, you know, why would Shein want to buy them? Well, this access to the American market and the American consumer.
Yeah.
That's coming through this other, you know, almost like facade at the outside, right? It's Everlane. It's not a Shein store. And
I actually think that's what it was for. It was.
I mean, if you think about it,
it was about the physical locations, not because they're not going to be ethical. Like I don't.
Well, they're going to try. I mean, the discourse is that they're going to try to actually, like, you know, figure out how to bring that supply chain, the Everlane supply chain, into, you know, into what they're doing. But if you think about it, it is really access to this consumer and this market. And quite frankly, for $100 million, it's a really good deal for them, given the fact
it's an
that
amazing
they had,
deal for Shein.
Right? I think in 2024, 25, their like top line revenue was like $38 billion. And they made $2 billion of profit. So $100 million to pick up some, you know, that is actually not a big investment. And, you know, we'll get into this in a second too, but like from an economic perspective, when we look at the numbers of, you know, Everlane got into a lot of trouble. They were in the beginning of 2026, right? You've got apparently the rumors are that they were having trouble with a lot of their leases, that, you know, they couldn't necessarily pay all their bills. I mean, none of this is really verified. It's all in red, you know, in all of these articles, and so you hear it from all over. But essentially, they were just not able to keep pace with the revenue and actually paying off all of the debt. And inevitably, what happened and what will happen when this sale goes through, and it's already been shared with their shareholders, is that if you think about it, you know, that $100 million sale, 90 million of that is actually servicing debt, right?
Wow.
Then the 10 million, whatever is left over, is going to preferred shareholders and other payments that, but nobody, likely the common shareholders, like founders, like employees, other early investors, potentially, depending on what, you know, what kind of shares they actually had, will get zero, right? So everybody will sort of walk away from it. In fact,
that would
like
be,
in fact, the founder.
I didn't think about that. That'd be interesting to know if those early employees.
Well, I know. I want to know,
invested in one way or another, right? Like,
or even
was
like
that a part of their compensation, and now it's worth nothing. Woof.
Yeah, and even the Michael, the original founder, you know, he made a post on LinkedIn on think it was Monday or Tuesday, where he said, I found out about this also over the weekend, like everybody else on the internet. And,
wow.
Which makes you think like he is likely not included and likely stepped away from this when the majority of the business was sold to Caterham, the private equity firm in 2024. And so, like when you actually look at the economics of this, like who's actually getting the dollars from it. It's nobody that actually is focused on impact. In fact, everybody that is getting anything out of this are just folks that are trying to service their bank accounts.
Wow.
Right? Like it's
what a heartbreaker.
It's back into the model. And what was actually interesting about Michael Praisman's post on LinkedIn was how he talks about the early days of Everlane, and that, they really did try to build something that was impact focused, that had real values, that made a difference in the world. And through that, they did some interesting things. They brought this discourse to more consumers, right? Than maybe if they weren't around. And the fact that I think when they started, I do actually believe that they had the best of intentions to be a purpose-driven company. But I think as they got wrapped up in the world of startup, which is all about growth, which is all about the outcomes, and the outcomes for not just for the company itself or for the founders, but the outcomes for the folks that invest in your business, right? Because that is now what you're working towards. Your outcomes in the business directly affect the outcomes for those that invest in your business. And so that is part of that system of the dollars flowing back into those with capital.
And honestly, in my experience in work, if you're working with folks that are not founder-led, the seams really start to loosen. As soon as professional managers get in there, like
private equity.
Becomes private equity, professional managers, and then every new CEO has to put their mark on it. They have to make a mark. And it's like, no, you don't. Like, I don't understand that. And I know sometimes they want a new CEO because they want a new direction, but I don't know. I've seen it so many times. As soon as there's a change in like leadership internally in a company, every agenda has to be addressed. And sometimes impact and sustainability is like, well, let's like reconsider. It's like, this is a long game. Like, this is a long game. Yeah.
It often gets, it's the last on the list, right?
And deprioritized. Yeah,
absolutely. It's the last on the list. And so it gets sort of crossed off for the time being, or it's not a priority. And especially when you think, and when you go out and, for these founders raising capital, especially as I'm sure as they went on and raised their larger rounds, like their Series F round of like $100 million, impact was like part of the story, but it certainly wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't the driver for those conversations. It was like a very nice to have because it was actually capturing that consumer. And what did that consumer mean? It meant you're capturing the dollars of that consumer in the North American market in particular, where the majority of Everlane customers are. And so it's an opportunity for returns for those investors, right? So it always comes back to the dollars because it's about the opportunity. So like, I think like this is a good time for us to talk about Shein too, because as we said, this is, people are like, why are they buying Everlane? And it was shocking. You're like, it's like polar opposites, right? Because regardless of what Everlane, they had internal issues, they maybe weren't as transparent as they should have been. All of those things are true.
Every company has problems.
Absolutely, right? And all of those things could have been true, but they also, what could also was true at the same time is that they did have good intentions, right? They did want to do something different. Whereas Shein, has a very like opposite perspective on like what they want to do and what they certainly have done since their start. And it has for them been about like absolute growth, right? And it's like, how do you penetrate the North American market where consumers are more perhaps, especially the consumer that Everlane targeted, the millennial woman, probably highly educated. How do you capture that consumer? And Shein can't do that with the products they have now. And so like, who can we buy that we can be appealing to this other customer?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Like, and we will get into that. Like, I think as someone that I knew Shein existed, and I thought it was gross, and I thought it was generally like the existence of Shein tells me things are going in the wrong direction. And like, we need to course correct as a global community. We need some kind of structural policies that help us with the cultural awakening of we want less, and we want our less to be better. So I became kind of familiar with Shein through seeing kind of random Shein haul videos on social. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, this is just crazy. And then last year, Shein opened their first brick and mortar. So my relationship with Shein kind of like the awareness came last year in June, when Shein opened their first brick and mortar location in BHV department store in Paris. And I actually forget in this moment what BHV stands for. It's a quintessential Parisian department store with a lot of history, and they see themselves as a place full of like brands that offer sophistication, luxury, timeless quality. And so Shein taking over an entire floor of this department store, like, no one protests like the French. And God bless the French for the energy they bring to civil disobedience. But there were massive protests. And so I actually was hunting through this. I saw this video months ago when I started following what was happening in Paris, and this massive outcry, not only to have Shein removed from BHV, but to have them banned and removed from the country entirely. And, Europe is like the most bullish sustainability market in the world. So I want to just play you this video. Let me share my screen. And it's 3.5 minutes. It's a good one though.
Tonight, protesters of fast fashion giant Shein rallying inside its first brick and mortar store. Demonstrators in Paris outraged over the controversial brand setting up shop in the fashion capital of the world. Some dragged out by police. Shein, which was founded in China in 2012 and is now based in Singapore, is commonly criticized by human rights and sustainability advocates for its labor practices and environmental impact, reportedly adding thousands of new items to its site each day. Things like dresses often sold for just $5. The company is now occupying a 10,000 square foot portion of the French department store,
10,000 square feet of trash.
Which also touts selling luxury brands like Chanel, Dior, and Gucci.
We are fighting for 3 years now against ultra fast fashion business model. It's not only Shein, it's also AliExpress, it's also Temu, and I think we have to discuss what model of society we want in Europe.
The store's opening generating even more backlash after critics pointed out images on Shein's website appearing to show listings for sex dolls that have childlike features. In response, France said it's taking steps to suspend online access to the retailer until the company proves its content complies with French law. Shein telling the BBC in a statement it's permanently banned all seller accounts linked to illegal or non-compliant sex doll products and will tighten controls across its global platform.
Bon, d'abord, on peut...
But the country's finance minister saying, let me be very clear on this. If such conduct is repeated, we will be within our legal right, and I will ask for it to stop Shein's access to the French market. Shein did not respond to NBC News' request for comment. The company has previously denied various allegations related to working conditions, saying they're working to create a more sustainable production ecosystem and improve our suppliers' practices.
Why? Just say Everlane. Yeah.
Despite protests outside the store in Paris, long lines also formed of excited shoppers. And inside,
it's an affordable brand, and that's what people love about Shein.
It's for her.
How much?
35 euros.
What fans of the brand would come to expect, racks of ultra cheap styles for a fraction of what's often the price.
Liz Kreutz joins us tonight from LA. Liz, so Shein is now the entire top floor of that department store, BHV. Have they commented on all this backlash?
Yeah, Tom, the president of the company that owns the department store has commented on both the concerns over Shein's labor practices and also the sale of these sex dolls. As far as the fast fashion part of it, he said, from what I can tell you, the clothes that are manufactured here respect workers' rights. Yeah. He also added that he hopes the brick and mortar store will actually prevent people from just impulsive shopping like can happen online because people will actually have to try on the clothes in the store and decide if they want them. And as far as that sex doll, he called it despicable. He said that he supports the French government's right to suspend online access. And he says he has directly addressed this with Shein's leadership, telling them that they need to put stricter rules in place for its online marketplace, Tom.
All right. Liz Kreutz for us tonight. Liz, we thank you. We thank you.
Okay. So.
Okay. This is.
That's a hot mess.
It's
like, there's a lot in there.
And it's like, doesn't even get into the fact that like Shein rips off designers and artists left, right, and center. With no credit. They are, and the sheer volume of product that they're pushing through.
So gross.
It was what in one of the previous videos that it makes companies like H&M and Zara, and even for Forever 21 in its day, it makes them look like slow fashion, right? Like compared to what's happening with Shein. And so
absolutely. Well, they're not fast fashion, they're hyper fast fashion.
They're hyper fast fashion, yeah.
And one of the things that I find so fascinating, and I we don't have time to get into it today, but if you so wish, dear 3 listeners, go and look up the history of covered malls in Paris and what that meant to women and what that, the early days of like, not quite feminism, but kind of trying to get there. Like these shopping experiences in France specifically. This is why I was so shocked by this, because in our history, you study like the history of malls and spaces where women could go on their own. And it's a fascinating history. And then to have like Shein come in, and the long lines are gross. They are really gross. And I think
they're so gross. And the halls, right? The birth of that, the hall mentality, which I know you've got all this like.
Oh, we're gonna get into the
psych info about it, right? Like it's just consumption at its worst. And the product at its worst, right? Like the product is just trash. It's literal trash. And now we are even seeing all of it landing up in the landfills or in the thrift stores, and nobody wants to buy it because it's literal trash. Like it's worse than any like vintage polyester you could imagine, right? Like it's just terribly made. It's at
least vintage polyester. Like it didn't move, but it was tailored.
At least had cool designs on it.
Tailoring, at least.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, so totally gross, super gross, makes me so sad. But I was watching that, and like last summer, and being kind of excited. Like people are still like there are people out there, and then the long lines ruin. And it's. I just want to say one thing before we go on. I don't want to do video because that would mean I couldn't be here in my pajamas. But your face when we were watching that video, there was a million emotions on your face. With the sex dolls, you were like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, that's
my God.
And most people don't know that, right? And that was like part of the story, and that is part of the products that they had on their marketplace.
Because there's no ethics whatsoever.
There's no ethics. And so let's talk about like the Shein economics really quickly, because I think again, like we were mentioning before, the fact that this like $100 million deal to buy Everlane is actually like a great deal for them. Even though that they're predominantly buying up debt, they're actually buying access to this market. They're buying, this credibility of this brand that had, for the most part, built a lot of trust.
They did. They had,
right?
We'll get into it. They had believers.
They had strong believers. And when you
true believers
look at Shein and why this move actually, makes sense, when you actually like step back and like not look at like, okay, Everlane's the sustainability darling and Shein's this hyper fashion monster essentially. But Shein, just like Everlane, is in this machine of trying to grow, right? Because they've also, they're not necessarily self-funded either. They've gone through multiple rounds of capital raises. I think in their last round, in 2023, they raised like a $2 billion round. Like that's how much money they raised. And at the peak valuation, again, this is like 2022, they were their valuation was sort of perceived at $100 billion. Since then, that's sort of gone down. That's been cut down through the subsequent years. But to understand where Shein is also at is that they're looking at a potential IPO in the next little while. And so they want to be in the best possible position. But their actual valuation has gone down from that, perceived $100 billion a couple years ago to now looking like more like 30 to 50 billion. And it's crazy that we're talking about these numbers like 30, 50.
Sorry, can you repeat
that? So their valuation sort of is teetering between 30 and $50 billion, right? It's gone down.
Shein's valuation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like,
I need to recover. I need a moment.
Yeah.
Because
in 2024, they made $38 billion. Their revenue is $38 billion. That is.
Oh my God. That is so gross. It's so gross on so many levels. That gross.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's a link I didn't add, because it was too long, but we'll share it on our social anyway. And I believe don't quote me as I talk in a public forum. I believe that their emissions increased because 23%. They air freight everything. 23% in 2024, their global emissions.
Yeah.
And unbelievable. Like they don't give a shit. Yeah. Zero, no shits given.
Their emissions have like skyrocketed. Stand.Earth said that I know they're amazing. We love them.
I'm a believer. Give them money every year.
If Shein was a country, that would be the 100th biggest emitter in the world, roughly equivalent to Lebanon's entire national output on emissions. And the majority, as you said, of the emissions are in the scope 3 category, which is like supply chain and transport. Because, they're just shipping all this stuff all over the place.
Unbelievable.
So huge impact. In addition to just perpetuating this hyper consumerism and just like waste, right? It's like we're not looking at artisanship. We're not looking at quality. We're just looking at consumption for the sake of consumption.
And I know I'm not supposed to be woo-woo, but I do think it's a spiritual problem.
Yeah. Well,
this is a deeply spiritual problem.
And so let's get into that. Let's get into like why this is so hard for so many people, right? Like this is the internet and the new media, like this story was the story of the week, right? Like
this story it hit hard. I think this is a story that I think it will be breaking point for people. I think there are a lot of people that were believers in Everlane, and they may turn their backs on the idea of sustainable living or sustainable consumption. But before we do that, we need a tiny palate cleanser courtesy of Morning Brew. So I'm just going to share a little palate cleanser with you.
Okay.
Because you know what?
We need a break.
We need a fucking break here. So let me just play you. If you don't listen to Morning Brew, this is from 2 days ago.
I'd be the first to welcome Everlane to the Shein family. Here at Shein, we do things a little differently, but we want to keep what's at the center of Everlane, which I think is clothes. Everlane prided itself on sustainability. Well, it's time to grow up. There's no reason to care about sustainability when none of us will be around that long anyway.
Someone's complaining about a rash from our clothes.
Don't worry, that's supposed to happen. It's called leaving a mark. Everlane stood on the belief in exceptional quality, ethical factories, and radical transparency. We only want to change 3 of them. Shein has always been at the cusp of innovation with items like one-ply jeans, and we noticed a few areas that Everlane could improve, including clothes waste and carbon emissions. Their numbers are way too low. Everlane had a goal of only working with factories that had an ethical score of 90 or above. Here at Shein, we can keep them up. Shein Everlane connection work. We're excited for the new Everlane to come to your mailbox. And also in the air in like tiny pieces that you breathe in. And also burning in East Africa. But who cares? You gotta order it from your couch. I want to be the first.
Oh, this is so good.
Morning Brew.
They're so good. They're so good. And I know so many people are, like you said, so upset about this and are really, because this is not the only piece in the news cycle that's happened in 2025 and 2026 that's like hit home for people that are trying to do sustainability in their lives and make sustainable choices, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a part where we need to continue to laugh at this too, because like if it's all just doom and gloom and we recognize the reality of the system and agency within the system and what's happening, it can be quite depressing. But I think the only way through it is to say, hey, you're not the only one that thinks like this, and we can bring some humor into it so that we can continue like doing the work.
Yeah, and I also think that there's this kind of approach to these kinds of criticisms about business behavior, sustainability, and these requirements and what's right and what's wrong is that there's a lot of this like, well, you need to relax. There's this overall narrative of like, relax. It's just business. And when we bring moral outrage, that's what we tend to get. Oh, you're hysterical. Stop being so hysterical. And so I personally think the humor side is the way to go. Like absurdity, just show like that. I love that video because it's like, oh, and it's in the air we breathe. Like,
of course.
Yeah, it is. Yes. And I think that approach, that bringing that lightness to the conversation is important. But now we're going to go into the darkness a little bit. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Why did this hit so hard, Christy?
Why did it hit so hard?
Yeah. I know like this is like you went deep rant. Here.
I went on a massive rant with you. So, okay. So I know structure is critical. We're going to get to structure. We're all humans having this kind of spiritual experience and trying to find our way through a system that is not made for us. We are participating in, and it's impossible for us not to participate in late stage capitalism. We are stuck. In episode 2, you will hear all about capitalist realism, and it is easier for us to imagine the end of the world than it is for us to imagine the end of capitalism. And I think that's where we are. And when people believe in a brand, that trust it takes years and years to build and a second to lose. And then when you lose trust in one, you can lose trust in all. And so, and this is the moment where I kind of, the kind of feeling I always get is like people kick their foot in the dirt and walk away. And they're like, I was wrong. And so Santa's not real. And that changes everything for me. And so, okay, so why does it hit so hard? So first off, I think it's really important to consider the psychology of these like Shein hauls, and why are people doing this, and why does it matter? Like why? Like I said, the only relationship I had with Shein was seeing these Shein hauls just as like a part. It's almost like a gorecore. Like I would watch it and be like, my God, like I would recoil. Like, why are people doing this? Like they're not good quality. Like you're not gonna keep that forever. Like it's not gonna stay with you and be a part of like your world. Like I just, anyway. So with these Shein hauls, it's all about volume. Things are so cheap that they feel like this is an abundant thing they're doing. They are like creating all this abundance for themselves. You spend, $200 at Shein is a massive haul. So there's this psychology of abundance. Then there's this like performative consumerism where folks do their Shein haul and they unbox it online and they do their try-ons. I want to show you a Shein haul. And in this Shein haul, there's a few things you're going to see that I think are really interesting to point out. This user, and I'm not actually going to share her name, and I don't think we should share it on our social. Like if people ask for it, if the 3 people listening to this really want us to, we will. But I don't think we should do that because I don't want to. But this particular user this video has 80,000 likes on it.
Yeah.
80,000 likes on TikTok, 13,500 saves. 13,500 saves. People are going to go back to this. And she has almost 300,000 followers and 33 million likes on her videos.
Yeah, and this is the attention that Shein has. That's the customer, right? It's not just like their marketing. It's through these Shein hauls, right?
And it's through the unpaid labor of young women young women allowing themselves to be billboards for a shitty brand like Shein. So the psychology here is troubling. I'm not a psychologist, but yeah, I'm not going to, allegedly, do I say that? Allegedly. Allegedly? I feel like, is that a disclaimer enough? Allegedly. Okay, so let's watch She Who Will Remain Nameless and her Shein haul.
I got a big fat summer Shein haul. There's not many things I would say I'm a professional at, but Shein shopping is one of them. And before you comment on the ethics, give me some proof and tell me you research every other place you shop.
What? Perfectionism.
Accessories and gadgets are looking fire today. So we're going to go clothes, swimsuits, accessories, and gadgets. Buckle in. Bottoms first. I got these yellow ones with lace on the side. Very darling. This brown skirt. These polka dot denim shorts. These are so cute. And actually feel really good quality.
Actually.
And these striped jean shorts, they're looking a little small, but we'll see. I got this set of shorts and a little halter neck tank. I got this sweater. I was really worried about the quality, but it feels really nice. And I like the lobster. I got this romper. If you were here last year, I had it. I just stained it, so I got another one. This off-the-shoulder dress, and it's looking a little funky. We'll see. This dress is darling. I feel like somebody has to be proud of me for this. It's striped. It's just so cutesy. Shirts, I kind of went ham, but I was unboxing these, and I was like, holy cow, they're good. I got this just to sleep in, obviously. This tube top with lace on the bottom. That's really cute. A plain white tank top. Quality on this one is meh. This cute cover-up shirt. Loving the feeling. It's soft. Same with this one. That's going to be really cute. I was really into the blues, if you couldn't tell. This, what is it called? Smocked shirt. Is it giving mature? That was kind of the goal. And then I got this little button-up tank. I'm going to Florida soon. I feel like this stuff will be perfect. This halter neck. She's really cute, really doing it for me. A replacement of my favorite white top that I stained. This top is definitely going to need a try on. It's giving grandma pillowcase. But we'll see. The reviews were good. This tank top I'm really excited for. And quality actually feels really nice. This off-the-shoulder tan t-shirt, perfect for the beach. And apparently I was into off-the-shoulders because here's another white one, but this one cinches at the bottom. I told you guys I was cooking. I got this brown one with obviously matching bottoms. I was going for not strings in the back, and I hope I succeeded. This one's really cute. It's giving Kulani Kinis. Same bottom, and it has a double strap situation. I love my stripes. So striped bottoms and just like a striped triangle top. I'm doing so good. Another striped triangle top. This one also has the shape of bottoms. This one's my favorite. I just feel like it's most flattering when it has
How
skinny,
many bathing suits does one person need?
Yeah.
Like bikinis that bunch, those don't do it on me.
All that formaldehyde. That's what I think.
Oh my God.
Right? I must spin into polka dots because this one has a double
She's
top
still going.
in the middle. And then this polka dot one is reversible.
She's
and it has
cooking.
thick straps and a matching reversible top also with a bedangler. Holy polka dot. Now accessories and gadgets. I got a new phone umbrella. This one clips on your phone for when you're tanning so you can actually see your phone. My old one was a suction, but I feel like this clip will be better. I got a 3-pack of little tiny belts. I just need belts.
Plastic.
This one's going to be good.
Yeah.
I got this sardine bag. If you know, I have another sardine bag, but this one's good beach material to put all my little cutie girl things in. I got a pack of clips for 50 cents to pin my curls. I got this mega claw clip. Over consumers, I'm sure there's worse things I could be doing. I got this fun little pack of bracelets to stack. This fun little polka dot eye mask. I was like, I need that. Why not have more whimsy?
Do you though?
This is darling. Are you joking me right now? My favorite claw clip ever is from Shein, and I'm holding on to it. If it dies, I go with. Now, this is big news for the unemployed. If you remember my beloved cheetah headband, I stepped on it and broke it. We got a new one for 50 cents, period. I got a pack of literally 20
50 cents.
I did not think I got that many, but
Someone
you know
paid
what?
for that.
I use them, I'll share. Oh, wait, darling, look at this little necklace. It's
It
kind
goes
of like
on.
the rainbow.
I know.
I got
Wow.
this bracelet in silver. I literally have it on right now in gold
Yeah.
from last year, but I was like, gold hand could be good. I just like buying fun accessories. Oh, wait, these are cute. From here, because some of them are so expensive. I got these 3 little rings. These are really cute. Will they hold up? I don't know. I got this fun striped bag to be my beach bag. And then sardines inside. Are you seeing the vision? I hope so. I got 1 pack of fun bangles. So
Oh
you
my
can really hear me
goodness.
just like, did I get 3 packs of press-on nails? I did, because they looked really fun. And I saw some girl say that she only uses Shein nails. And they were 60 cents. And some of the patterns are kind
60
of cool.
cents.
Yes, it's overconsumption. I don't care. Then I got some of the stick curling rods because I want to get back on my heatless curl grind. 1 double-sided Octobuddy because apparently 20 wasn't enough. And then last but not least, I wanted a tripod that was easy to travel with. So I got this little pink one. Let's see how big it gets. Wait. And this will be coming with me on my trip. So I don't have to abandon you guys ever again. Oh, and I also got these little yellow flower clips because I felt like I could do some fun, whimsical hairstyle. Then I got some random birthday decorations because I have a birthday coming
It just
up.
goes on and on.
Yeah.
Balloons,
I thought she was done.
And then I get
No. And shoes.
because my roommate told me I
And
need to
shoes.
return my shoes. So I ordered some from Shein. Anyways, that's it. I think I spent like maybe $100, which is
100?
kind of insane, but I'd rather be honest and just tell you guys. I just get on there and Google all the codes and watch TikToks on how to stack the codes, and then I do it. Thank you for coming to my haul. Let me know if you want me to try anything on. And that's it. I say as there was 100 items. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you, Toodles. I got a big...
Oh my
Love
goodness.
you. Love you, Toodles girl. So I'm not going to share her because I don't want to like
Yeah.
be punchy at a lady. She mentioned quality 7 times. 7 times in that video. She was like, ugh, like maybe this is quality. You might wear that. Like what happens to it? Do you know what I mean? Like that was what really blew my mind about this Shein haul was the unapologetic, like overconsumption. I don't care. And that the quality is obviously shit. And it's just like, what is it? Like a dish rag now? Because
Not
do
even.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like-
You probably couldn't even use it as a dish rag.
not even. Right. So I felt like that was a journey we just went on.
And the reality is that there's like thousands of those, right? There's thousands of those content creators that just do haul after haul after haul all over the world. And so, for Shein to be able to load up, 3,000 to 6,000 new items per day.
Oh my God.
People are buying these products, right?
Yeah. People are buying them.
Yeah.
I think we all need therapy. All of us. Every single one. We need therapy. And there's another video that we'll share on our social. I won't necessarily share it right now because it's a little bit long, but it's by a creator, the Becca Murray, and she has around like 460,000 followers. And her video is all the reasons not to buy from Shein.
Amazing.
And I feel like we know what those reasons are, but she said something really, really powerful in this particular video. Folks that can only afford to shop at Shein are not keeping Shein in business. And I think that's so true. Like, people want quality. They want value. Well, I think value lasts, and value is a quality product that's going to last you for more than one wear. And so I thought that was so interesting, her perspective that, this is people who could afford to buy better quality, but are desperately seeking abundance. Yeah. And the like blip in their life that will be that dopamine hit of what happens from the Shein haul.
Yeah, and that those hauls are, they're just not for Shein products. You've got Zara hauls, you got Aritzia hauls, you got thrift hauls. Like, it's like, and we will talk about this in another episode, but there's an entire world of like the haul and this like overconsumption, even with the best of products, of just like that abundance of, you need more of these things, right? To either show that we're doing well, or that we've got style, or we've got value, whatever it is, right? But it's like this like psychology of the haul, and it isn't just Shein that's that people are buying. It's everything.
It is. It's everything. But that's capitalism is designed to make us crave the haul.
Crave the haul because it's a
buying is winning,
hit, right? Yeah.
Buying is winning. And especially if, I think it does take training, training and intention, and like being very, very clear with yourself about what it means to buy, 80% less and pay 80% more for those products you do buy. Like having a capsule wardrobe is there, and there's this whole world of capsules we're not going to get into. But that is it can feel like you're giving something up. You're giving something big up. And so, so why did this hit so hard? In a world of abundance, like that is what Shein kind of feels like that haul video. Like, to me, that is Shein to me. That is what it does. And that is the kind of behavior it encourages. And when there's these massive lineups, like that lineup at the BHV store in France looked like a Black Friday sale. It looked like this kind of frenzy of consumerism. And so why did this hit so hard for the women in my social feeds, in sustainability social? Why did this hit so hard? And so I want to read you. I'm not going to play the video because it's like 10 seconds. But I will read the notes. So this is from a user, a creator, Crystal's Slow Buy Club. And I kind of fell in love with her as a result of this post. So Everlane's fall, why a beloved millennial brand sold out. So this is Crystal, her words. This is a 10-second video with Heartbreak sound. My favorite millennial brand. I spent thousands on Everlane. I wanted to wear its values, transparency, quality basics, and the sense that my purchase is supporting something different from fast fashion. I even joined a competing company because Everlane seemed too cool to hire me. I believe Everlane could buck trends, stick it to the man, and be my forever brand. How it changed. I had already thought I'd moved on from Everlane. Still, I never imagined the brand would stoop this low just to survive. Learning that Everlane sold reportedly to Shein for $100 million felt like a betrayal. Customers who invested their money and trust now face the reality that the brand's identity and commitments may be gone or compromised. Oh, sorry. Why this hurts. Loyal customers bought into Everlane's promise. Ethical sourcing, transparent pricing, and durable wardrobe staples. The sale to a fast fashion operator undermines those core values and makes many question past purchases. For longtime supporters, this isn't a business deal. It's the loss of an ideal. What this means for customers. Product integrity may change if its production shifts to prioritize low cost and scale. Transparency and ethical commitments can be reduced or reframed. Resale and garment longevity promises may no longer hold. What to consider if you are reevaluating your wardrobe loyalty. Check current product materials, manufacturing information, return policies. Decide whether to continue buying from the brand or redirect spending to verified ethical alternatives. Preserve sentimental or high-quality pieces you already own, which I love. The takeaway. The sale is a sharp reminder that brands can change and trust can be lost. For many, Everlane's reported deal with Shein marks the end of an era. If you feel let down, you're not alone. This reaction reflects genuine disappointment from consumers who believed in what Everlane stood for. What do you plan to do with your Everlane pieces? And will you follow the brand after this news?
Yeah, I mean, that's like a really sad reaction. And I think for a lot of people that, purchased Everlane products and supported the brand and were loyal customers and fans, it was, representative of the values that they wanted to hold, right? Like and this idea that, we've talked about, it's like you can shop there and you can buy those products and you could be a good person at the same time, right? Because this brand represented all of these values that you shared with that you shared with them and that were focused on like treating people well and sustainability and environmental impact. And so, people strongly believed that by purchasing from them, they are contributing to a better future. When, I think, and this is perhaps the issue with, relying on that brand or the brand relationship to do that work for you almost, right? It's like, okay, well, if I buy these products, then I will feel good about the products that I wear because this brand's doing good. And it's almost like we're putting an unrealistic expectation of a mechanism in the market that is at the end of the day still functioning in the market as like the still, even though they have an impact outcome that they want to achieve, they're still focused on growth and making money. Right. And I think, I think maybe it's just coming from me who I've been jaded through all of the years of doing this work.
So jaded.
And so like, even the best of them, you recognize that not everyone's got it figured out. There's always going to be holes and everybody can always do better. And there's never the ideal company. Right. And so, but I feel my biggest worry, and I know we've talked about this, is that people are going to walk away, not just from Everlane, but like the choices in like contributing to a more sustainable future in their purchasing decisions. I hope not, but that can be, a big worry we don't want people to walk away and not think that they can contribute.
It's a huge problem. And I think that is the crux of the issue, is that loss of trust and what's going to happen. Because I know in my work, all of the teams I'm dealing with are women. Like I unapologetically believe sustainability is women's work. It is. We're the ones doing it. Even in male-owned companies, it's always women. It's always groups of women that are like putting in the extra hours, that are leaning into this work. And specifically in the case of Everlane, I'd like to share some data with you about the brand. So 85% of Everlane's sales are in the United States in 2025. And their core audience is 25 to 34. And approximately 95% are college-educated women. They don't sell to men. Men are not aware of them. They are for women. And so the women buying from them, chances are, like, if you're buying from Everlane, you know, you're a girly, you want progressive values, you're willing to pay more for a product if it gives it if it promises you that they are kind of doing the work for you. They're doing some of that sustainability and that ethical. It's a sound product to buy. They can kind of sleep at night. And in the context of in the US, this isn't just, I think the social media kind of backlash, this isn't just a blow against Shein. It's actually it's the kind of straw that broke the camel's back, I think, for a lot of people. If you look at what's happening because consumerism is, nothing is happening in a vacuum. So these women just lost Roe v. Wade. They lost their reproductive rights. They are dealing with a government that is trying to implement things like the SAVES Act to limit women's ability to vote. Like, there is a systematic rollback of women's rights, and especially women of color. And so this is, women are looking for, like, can they get an employment contract that allows them to freeze their eggs so that maybe someday when they're in a better economic position, they can step into motherhood. There's a lot of things going on. And so I think that in the context of Everlane, the outcry on social media is actually so much bigger than just a brand. It is this cry for, like, again, it's the camel, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Absolutely. And there's just so many things, right? Like, and it's so noisy with all of the things that are happening that you mentioned, and just what is happening around the world, and the continuous change we're seeing on a daily basis, right? Of rights being eroded, of even other big brands not doing good things, right? And we're continuing to see this daily. And so I agree. I think this is, just like that cherry on top that was like, okay, like, this is like tipping us over, because this was because it's so stark, right? This example is so stark, and it's just like, can we not just win once?
Can we not just win once? I love that. That is so true. Yeah. And so, and I appreciate that, because, like, when I've been watching what's happening and looking at the news, like, I know the structural pieces are important, but I just go into that, like, empathy mode. Like, what are they going to do now? What are these women going to do now? Like, who are they going to trust now? And I really worry for young women, because they are bullish on sustainability and they're stuck in this. They're in a place, especially young American women, they're in a place where they don't have a lot of agency right now. Like, they can get out there and be activists. They can do their best to support and be allies to other folks in their communities that are underserved and need more help. And they can do these things, and they can choose the clothes they put on their back. And you don't have a lot of choices. That's a massive choice.
That's a massive choice. And, as I was preparing for this episode yesterday, I went for a walk, and I was thinking about, the psychology of this, and the feelings that people have about perhaps starting to, like, go behind the curtain and seeing, like, how things actually work, and that they don't always work in our favor, and that we're always in the system, and that, like, the best structures still have to abide to some degree or another with the system that we are within. And that for a lot of people that maybe haven't looked behind the curtain and don't know how all of these things work, this can feel like the world is getting it's not full of possibility and abundance. In fact, it's getting smaller and smaller. And like, there's less and less opportunity to make change, because now you're like, oh, well, if, like, the best of the brands that we thought was going to do good, they can't do it, how can anybody else do it? Right. And they had, an abundance of capital, even though they didn't have the capital of a Shein, they still had an abundance of capital. And what about everybody else that, has less funding, that has less choice, that has less privilege? And so it starts to feel like your world's getting smaller and smaller, and you're just being hit by all the daily noise that is happening in your community, in your country, globally, and it can feel really suffocating. And I think we're not going to dive into depth here, but we do want to reference like one of our most favorite podcast team. And I'm just going to read a quote from them, and they did an amazing
our
inspiration, Diabolical Lies. You should all listen to them. They did an entire episode on ethical consumption.
Pay for their subscription. Just pay them.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
They're doing critical work right now.
Yeah, great women creators. And the one quote I'll take away from it, which I think is so relevant to this, is that resistance to a system is almost always presented on the terms of the system, right? So we're trying to do sustainable consumption, and we're trying to build sustainable businesses and even do impact investing. But all of those structures and all of those intentions are within the system that is here, and it is still functioning as it wants to, right? With its intention to have the largest financial returns for shareholders and for those that hold that wealth. And so, like, to that point of like that, how can we imagine a different system? How can we imagine new structures that actually, put pressure on the system in different ways, not from within, but from the outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
can withstand these pressures.
Right? And so this is because this is important, right? We've seen, Everlane's not the first example of a company that's been gobbled up by a bigger, wealthier, multinational or larger startups. We've got companies like Burt Bees being bought by Clorox. We've got Tom's of Maine being bought by Colgate. We've got Naked Juice bought by Pepsi. We've got Honest Tea, Poppy being bought by Coca-Cola. There's such one of my favorite, and like another like mind boggler, Vectura, which was an asthma inhaler being bought by the cigarette producer Philip Morris.
Oh God!
Right? Just like so many examples, and we don't have the time to like go into all the details of all of these. Like all of these, require their own episodes. I mean, as we say in some of our social, the world just keeps on giving us material, so we got to keep talking.
It's so true.
But right, there's so many examples,
and there's lessons in all of them.
Within
all these lessons, there's a way forward.
Absolutely. Because again, like all of these companies actually came out of the gate with really good intentions, right? Like they really did create really unique products and experiences and ways to create impact in new ways.
And like with the example, I don't think you mentioned them, but Puka Tea, they sold to Unilever. And when they sold to Unilever was still on the purpose train. Like they probably didn't think that they would have to, and I don't know all the details of that particular case, but they're no longer B Corp. And that there's something in that. They were before and they're not now. So I think that's also, something to consider, that when companies sell to these larger brands, like you're in the wind, like you are subject to the changes at that level in these companies.
Well, you no longer have control, right?
You have no control.
Once you sell, whether or the majority stake in your business, once it goes over 50%, you no longer have the controlling stake in terms of what decisions you make and where the business goes is no longer in your control.
Yeah. But there's hope.
There is. So in all of that, again, like all these companies started with really good intentions. And to some degree, all of them had some really interesting ways of doing their business, of running, right? Like, and there are ways that there is still hope. And those that do want to really have positive social and environmental outcomes, there are lots of people And now in the world of social media and being ultra connected, we're seeing, more and more people being outraged, more and more people being part of this discourse. And that is actually, from my perspective, like I'm very optimistic about that, because even like 20 years ago, way less people were part of this conversation. Everybody was we were all, cheering on CSR back in the day.
CSR.
CSR, triple bottom line.
For those out there, that's corporate social responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a joke.
But like fast forward, like about 20 years, but more people are part of this conversation, which despite everything that's happening, that is a really, for me, that's like a very positive progression, even though it might feel like, the world is shrinking and we don't have as much agency or things are not going our way. I do feel like this wake up call and more and more people being part of this conversation and feeling like they can contribute to the conversation, I think is like a starting point of something new and a new way to create in this world.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's, like lost the battle, not the war, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's, and I think there's so much to learn from all of these, right? There's so much to learn from all of these examples and what happens in these companies and what happens also for these founders that are trying, right? Because it's their stories too. And to your point, a lot of the times when they're not part of that, they're not part of the decision-making table anymore, is usually when we see things go downhill, right? It's like when they are no longer in control fully, is when we see a lot of the lack of accountability. Not to say always, but it is a big part of I think the sort of the symptoms.
The symptoms. And there's always lessons. And those lessons, if we pile them on top of each other, they're a new way. And we're going to talk about a new way in the third path forward in our OG episode 1, which is now episode 2.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do we think? Like, how could a company like Everlane avoid this kind of choice? How can we avoid getting into this mess? We've talked a lot about different structures, the different ways that you can actually embed almost like mission lock and values lock into your business. And I want to read a quote because I think is really relevant and why we think that structure is actually critical here. And the quote is by Annika Schneider from the Purpose Foundation. In traditional ownership, money equals power, and that leads to shareholder value taking over the purpose. By sharing control and benefits of a business among stakeholders, the power remains in the hands of the people who are actively involved. Like, so key. How do we bring those other stakeholders into this structure so that not only the people who care about growth and financial bottom line are the only decision makers, right?
Yeah. Brands that stay founder led, they stay. The impact is tight. Like it stays. It's their personal legacy, and so it feels closer. And they serve it and service it, and they take care of it, and they steward it properly. And so let's get into that mission lock piece, because that's one piece. But how do you, as a founder, potentially ever leave a company and make sure mission remains intact? Yeah,
absolutely. And so we have things like, obviously, like trademarks, which Everlane had, which, on their radical transparency, which, didn't do much good in the long run. Then we have, structures like B Corp certifications, which are a little bit less structure and more certifications and standards and regulatory pieces that can actually help in maintaining some of the values and mission lock, because in B Corp's example, that mission lock is part of that, right? Conversation.
We will go on a deep dive into B Corp in future episodes.
We're not going to make this episode 6 hours long. Don't worry.
No. We could, though, which is actually a pretty good sign.
It's a good sign. There's so much to talk about on all of these. There's, of course, which is super interesting, like the Ben & Jerry's example of, obviously they sold Ben & Jerry's to Unilever, but they had an interesting structural piece or vehicle around a social mission board that was always part of the agreement in the sales process, as well as a foundation, which there's a whole hoopla about right now around what the future of that actually looks like and how well that actually functions in the long run when the owners of a company like Unilever, when that leadership changes and their interest in social mission and, social and environmental outcomes actually shifts. Is that actually effective? Then we, of course, have the benefit corporation, actual legal entity structure, which has a social environmental outcome embedded in the articles of incorporation and the structure of a business. Which
the purpose
is
statement is legally, it's in
binding.
That purpose clause is in the binding corporate documents, and the highest governing body is responsible for stewarding that, measuring that, and that becomes the core focus of strategy in a perfect world.
In a perfect world. And I'm sure, both Christy and I are benefit companies in British Columbia because some of our businesses are. So we know what it's all about. But we see this, how does this actually function as a company grows too? Does that have limitations? What does that look like? Patagonia, again, great example of what that meant for them in California. We'll do an entire massive episode on this around Patagonia's choices, their structures, and certainly what they did in the benefit company and how they operated, but also ultimately what Yvan Chouinard and his family did as they built out their perpetual purpose trust and nonprofit structures that were, part of this, their structure to think about how do we actually embed this for the rest of into perpetuity, essentially, of life.
Yeah. The shadiest of entrepreneurs in the world, shady in a good way, is Yvan Chouinard. Dirtbag climber, turned billionaire, and then gave it all away. And that is the ultimate story in this mission lock world right now. And so, yes, there are structures, and we can do deep dives on those structures. I think as we're, I don't know if you're ready to close out, Joe, or if you wanted to bring some more thoughts on that structure today. I think that,
for me, my note here will be on the fact that, structures are only effective if you've got a very clear idea about what your purpose and your values really are and what you want those to achieve in the long run. And they can have a real important purpose in maintaining that purpose vision, those values as you continue to grow your business. And I want, founders and those that work with companies, even investors, to think about, are we actually creating the environment for companies to truly create impact from a social environmental perspective, or are we just creating the environment for those companies to grow at all cost?
Yeah.
And can we actually, in fact, help founders make those decisions and build the structures that sustain over time and are actually good for people and the planet?
Yeah. And yes, we help? Can we also create, and as a result, can we create a society where regular citizens have agency, and that their energy and their emotional, physical, their time, their resources can move us in the direction of a better world beyond just voting once every few years and and volunteering or paying your taxes or whatever that happens to be that you think being a good citizen is. How can we activate every dollar? That's why I got in the game. Like, can we activate every single dollar people spend? And can companies embed so much impact and so much trust and ethics in their companies that you don't even have to think about it anymore? Like, you just trust. And that's what Everlane was. Everlane was a place where we know those millennial women, they shopped there, they bought, they felt good, they walked away, you know, and there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. We'll talk about that too. And listen to the Diabolical Lies episode, because we love them. But yeah, like, that is the moral injury of what has happened with Everlane. And this is going to take some time to recalibrate for those women who believed in the brand. And I guess this is for anybody listening. I hope if some of those millennial women are listening, and just because they fell doesn't mean they're all going to fall. Like, eventually we're going to get to some place where, hopefully sooner than later, we get to a place where every dollar you spend can be directed to leave the world better than you found it. Yeah. And on that note, let's just go back to our video that I didn't share.
Now you're going to share it.
And I'm going to share it now with, we're going to listen to the Becca Murray, and we will share her on our social media. I said we weren't, but it's a special treat just for you because you stayed with us this long. And the impact of voting with your dollars. Let's go, Becca Murray.
When I suggest shopping anywhere other than Shein, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, mean anywhere other than Shein. You can choose another fast fashion retailer. We all have to figure out where our line in the sand is, okay? This is why Shein is the worst. Zara, Forever 21, H&M, any of the other fast fashion retailers that you can think of cannot compare to Shein. They do not compare to Shein. The sheer number of garments that they create, that they're putting onto the market, that are ending up in a landfill. This is not every season. This is not every month. This is every fucking day.
Oh my
gosh. There are plenty of other brands whose labor practices and products are just as unethical and just as unsustainable as Shein, but Shein is doing it on a larger scale, an exponentially larger scale. I've said it before and I will say it 1,000 more times. I'm not here to shame individuals for where they choose to shop. I understand that ethical, sustainable, slow fashion is not accessible to everyone, and everyone has different reasons for why they shop where they shop. You can criticize the system without criticizing the people who partake in it. And folks who are shopping at Shein because they can't afford to clothe themselves another way or because they can't find clothes that fit, they are not the ones who are making it a multi-billion-dollar business. They're not. People who are doing fucking Shein hauls every other week, they are keeping this company in business. That is the business model that they are relying upon. And people who can spend that much money on disposable clothing can spend their money another way. They have the means to do it. You can also partake in a system while critiquing the system. So my thought experiment for everyone is to just try and pretend like Shein doesn't exist. If you clear your browser history, if you never go on that website again, what are your other options? I am not suggesting that everyone go out and overhaul their wardrobe and all of their consumption habits overnight. Use what you've got, what's already in your wardrobe. Try and make your own clothes last as long as possible, and start trying to figure out what your personal style is. Start figuring out how to listen to yourself instead of these corporations that are trying to get you to buy in to micro trends so that you are continuing the cycle. We don't buy it. We don't want to buy it.
We don't. We don't want to buy it. We don't want to buy it. No, don't buy it. We don't buy it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.